Right, obviously, later in the Quake Pro League, you had also the big win over Cypher when you won like the stage 3 or whatever it was, but this was when we had to go online. What I wanted to ask was this, bearing in mind Quake especially, like one of the cool things about it as a game is I do feel like it's way less like a sport and it's more like something like chess or poker or something, where like the top players, the joke is it's like just almost like being on holiday with people, you know, like every event you go to, you're going to see the same 8 or 10 people, you're going to play them, you know, you're going to probably have to beat this guy in the semi-final, this guy in the final. It's like, it's a different challenge. You're not just playing the whole world. You're playing these specific really fucking good players. Most of them who've played 10, 15 years in the game and they've all like legendary players. That's why for me, it's more like chess masters or something, right? When you had to go back online though, like that must be a bummer even if you win, right? Like online play, there's still something lacking from a real tournament. Like you say, like being a QuakeCon or something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it still means something because, I mean, you won a tournament, right? And you can also see the hype throughout, you know, Twitch and everything, social media. It still gives like a good feeling, a tournament feeling, but there's still a bit missing. Like even when we've been at in Katowice, you know, like we had it was the last LAN event before COVID times, before things went to online, and there was already no audience. So that already felt like kind of sad because everything was set up. We had a stage and there wasn't like no one sitting in front then, you know, apart from the players, but it wasn't as many. So that was already quite sad moment actually to see and to play like that. I mean, it was still cool to be there, sure, but yeah, it's just totally different that moment. And it's the same with online. I mean, you can really compare it. Being on LAN, of course, you know, the game feels overall much better. Of course, it's the same in other games, but yeah, you have just more like a head-to-head battle on LAN. Not everyone has a different machine. Everyone is playing on this, you know, same setup and everything. You know, things are, you know, being played out on fair circumstances, and while on online you still, you know, you can have like a better PC. I also throughout the last 2 years, I think it was when I made the change to 360 refresh rate monitor. You know, you can get a bit of advantages going on. So especially when playing online. I mean, get the best gaming machine, run 360 refresh rate, and it's gonna help you out to a degree. Absolutely, it's gonna shorten the way of you know, how quickly you can adapt your aim to different styles, because things just more reactive, more fluid, it's not a big difference though, you know, compared to 240. But still, you can get the slight advantage while the other player doesn't have this kind of advantage, and you know, it will cost the other players a few more hours of practice, making the right thinking behind that, and yeah, that's also kind of sad thing about, of course, online gameplay. You know, you never know what's going on behind the scenes.
If I look at some of even the like bad tournaments you had during this online period, the problem is, look, these are all the same players and everyone is trying still. It's online. In fact, it's all we had back then. No one knew if we were going to have LANs again. Everyone was actually trying to sort of, I even think props to all the players that kept playing. You sort of kept the esports alive. Like if everyone had just quit like real sports, who the fuck knows where it would be right now? It's actually quite cool we were able to transition back into the LANs. But when I see some of the bad results though, the problem is when I look at how good you've been on LAN once you hit the top, looks like some of these are like a product of online play though, because the other thing about online plays, it also feels like it means the amount of people who could like win the tournament becomes way bigger list. Like the thing about the legends I'm talking about before, you know, you're gonna have to beat Rafa or Cooler to win like a big LAN. If you're playing online, suddenly that guy who just does well in cops could win the fucking tournament or the upper bracket or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, these kind of things. I mean, there was still like a limited amount of players who were able to pull these kind of things off. But yeah, I mean, throughout the practice, you know, you start to understand each player more and more, and you know how, you know, you may be able to tell like how far this guy is going to be able to go in a tournament, And when we practice online, of course, you even can like tell how far in an online environment he's gonna make it. Like you can just test out things throughout practice. That also makes like playing duel in Quake like very special. You can just test your opponent in so many different ways, especially in Quake Champions, with how dynamic it is with all the different champions and maps abilities. So there's a lot to test out against each player, and it also gives you a very good feeling about the overall pool of heroes or champions your opponent can play. So that kind of opens things already up to reach a higher spot with in a tournament. But if someone is not able to play, all the champions, for example, then it kind of limits his abilities already to reach the higher position. So you can just test out throughout the practice, and then you already know, okay, there might be a good top 5 who are able to take it on a good day. Maybe a top 6, but above that, really it just shows throughout who really puts in the work that's needed to get to that point that you're able to secure a top 5 spot. And I think from a top 5 spot, it's not a lot anymore left to make it to a grand final. And once you reach the grand final, you just need one more small step to win that tournament. But you need to think about it. If things didn't work, if you lost the grand final, it's not about giving up, or even if you played like a really good match, you still lost. So you still need to think, how can I just turn this disadvantage I had throughout the match and that made me lost? How can I turn it into my advantage? And that's how you need to think about it. Taking it step by step, especially early on, like Vendor did. The Italian, our youngster, one of our youngsters, who came fresh into the scene, and at some point, like, he felt quite helpless. 2018 PGL tournament, where he felt like he feels stuck. He was already good, like making good approaches and everything, but he felt like really stuck because there was like no moving on from that point. And I picked him up and I told him a few things, and 3 years later he won the Online QuakeCon. I mean, it was online, yes, but still, it was the QuakeCon event. And QuakeCon, even online, it's still a QuakeCon somehow, Sure. So if there's a tournament, you want to win the QuakeCon. And he made it happen, and was just great to see. Now he just needs to bring exactly this kind of mental state onto LAN tournaments. And I think he was very close in the last finals, because there's one big dream we have, is meeting each other in the grand final and then playing it out, and that would be great. Unfortunately, we missed it by an inch, and he kind of slipped, and unlucky, but maybe next time.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or be a pleb and don't.